You sit down to send one email. There's this notification, then you have a thought about the dishes, and then you're reading something that has nothing to do with anything. Can't even remember opening it to begin with. And then an hour is gone. Email's still not sent. What happened? You never chose any of it. Whatever was loudest, newest, most on fire just took the helm. And that can be the wandering mind on perhaps even a default day. It's run by the shiny, the urgent, instead of by you. My name is Dr. Kourosh Dini, psychiatrist, psychoanalyst, lifelong wandering mind. In this video, I want to share a small practice, a moment or two. Pen and paper. That's the first place a wandering mind can start taking that helm back and then choosing again. This video is part of a 9-part series called Finding Flow with ADHD. It's built around 5 foundational practices that help engage a wandering mind rather than fight against it. Waves: wander, anchor, visit, engage, and station. Today, we're on the second letter, A, for anchor. Anchoring helps us stabilize the now, whether that now is calm, or stormy, or anywhere in between. For a moment, pay attention to whatever's bubbling in your mind right now. Probably more than one thing. I should send that email, I need to pay that bill, I want to play that game, what did that person mean by what she said earlier? The dishes, the report I still haven't finished, just a number of things are probably bubbling. The now of a wandering mind can range from calm to chaotic. Sometimes we only have one thing there, sometimes many. Every thought, every feeling, every idea is there felt as this wave in the moment. The trouble isn't that there's a storm. The trouble is this fear that we'd lose whatever's there. So we try to hold on to whatever we can, trying to overload our working memory all at once. Or we dash from one thing to another, trying to maintain ourselves and say, oh, I better hold on to that before I forget it. The energy that would otherwise go to choosing goes instead to holding or chasing. For a wandering mind, the now is magnified, pulling everything close, fast, all at once. Anchoring helps give us space. Anchoring is a small practice of pausing and noticing. A pause to reflect on the calm or storm within. It's often aided by pen and paper. With heightened clarity, we can decide and engage with greater meaning, strength, and often focus. We aid anchoring with this technique using a simple pen and paper. It's preferable to avoid a computer, a phone, or task manager, however wonderfully maintained any of those might be. The reasons are practical. Computers are infinite. They invite us into email, browser tabs, chats, the file we forgot to save, and more. Phones are worse. A task manager, however well built, holds 1,000 different items that will jump out at you the moment you open it. Anchoring is about this moment, not all the moments, just this one. Pen and paper create this boundary. Outside the rectangle of the page, that's the world, with all its pushes and pulls. Within the rectangle is this now. It's a reflection of our now. There's an organicity to pen and paper that helps us connect with something that feels real. There's texture, there's movement, the smell of the ink. Any pen and paper will do. Back of an envelope works, sticky note works, small notebook in your pocket works, and travels with you. If you'd rather not use paper, you can use like a reusable writing tablet, the erasable kind, with no apps or notifications to them. That can serve the same role. It's a single bounded surface that exists for the now. This pen and paper we'll call an anchor pad. It becomes our support for anchoring. It's temporary by design, and when the moment is done, so is the pad. There's an important distinction I want to focus on here, and that's it's one of the most difficult parts of the practice. An anchor pad doesn't list tasks. It lists options. A task tends to be a have-to. I must do this. Carries an instruction, sometimes even felt as a small accusation. An unfinished task is a small failure. A task list accumulated over weeks becomes a long account of failures. An option says, well, this is on my mind. I could do this. I could also not do this. It's part of a menu. There's no instruction, no failure if it goes uncrossed. It's information about where the mind is right now. As an example, maybe you're worried about an email. Maybe you're worried that if you don't check it now, you'll forget. Or maybe you just need to know. Instead of running off to open that email client, inevitably getting caught up in 3 other emails and then 2 notifications along the way, write it down. Check for email. Seems simple. As you do this, what you're doing is you're converting the impulse into an option. You can still decide to check that email. That's perfectly fine. But now you do so with greater clarity. And having written it, you have space to consider other options as well. This is not something you have to do all the time. This is something to help yourself in a particular moment. But as you do this, you retain and even support agency. The shift from task to option changes everything. It gives us a supported, strengthened choice. That shift is sharpest with the options we least want to look at, the have-tos. An unacknowledged have-to doesn't sit still. It circles at this edge of awareness, heavy and vague, and that vagueness is a lot of its weight. We feel the dread without quite seeing the thing. Now, naming it on this pad turns that cloud into an object. File the taxes, make the call, clean the fridge. It sits in front of us now, one option among the others, rather than looming somewhere behind. That acknowledgement, not the doing, can be powerful, whether we take it on now, later, or not at all. Granting its existence begins to dispel some of the dread around it. A have-to, after all, is a feeling wearing a task's clothes. Certainly, there can be challenge to this, but let's now look at the technique and see how we can begin. So here's a brief version of the practice. It's 4 steps. First, we pause. Then we anchor by getting a pen and paper and writing our options for the now using a mnemonic called wind. Then we visit our choice, and then we settle the anchor. So let me walk through each one of these. First is this pause. Before anything else, take a deep breath, a moment of not doing. The wandering mind tends to be a fast mind. That anchor begins with a deliberate slowing. This pause is the hardest step, and it's the most important. Second is that we anchor. We reach for some pen and paper, and we write our options of the now. Not for later today, not for the rest of the week, just what's bubbling in mind in this moment, the now. It takes a little practice to do this. Now here's where a mnemonic can be helpful, to act as this prompt to see what might be on your mind. The mnemonic is wind. W stands for want. There are things that you might want to do. Play a game, call a friend, watch a show. And then there's I for impulse. Things you might impulsively do. You might be doing right now. Just scrolling social media, looking up an email, snack, whatever you're interested in. Then need, N for need. Things you need to do. Do the dishes, write a report, prepare dinner. And D is for drift, standing for do nothing, drift, or be. And that drift is important. It's an option. And sometimes it's a good one. Now, one thing that comes up as we write our options, we might find ourselves slipping into brainstorming. What could I work on? What else might I tackle? What else is just jumping up? Oh yeah, I got to do that and the other thing. Generating things this way, rather than naming what's on our mind in this moment, is brainstorming. And the anchor pad is not about that. It's a snapshot of the now. If you find yourself brainstorming, sometimes you will, that's fine. There's a simple move to make. What you can do is write brainstorm. as one of your options. And then you carry on thinking through just the moment of the now. So we don't need to fight the impulse to brainstorm. If you decide you want to do that, that'll be an option just as any other. So we're aiming for a small handful of items. It's not an inventory. The idea is just what's actually on our mind. And then rest your mind on that list. Sit with it for a moment. Does it reflect your mind? With those in place, consider choosing one to be with, and when you do, you can circle it. You've just declared what you're doing. Going back for a moment to that wind mnemonic, you don't have to use all of those. You don't have to have a want or a need or an impulse or drifting in mind. It's a mnemonic to say, I wonder if there's something that that's just under the surface that I'm not quite acknowledging for myself. Now, third is to visit your choice. Be with it for as long or as short as makes sense. From a single deep breath to an experimental little nudge forward to a full session of work, or anywhere in between. And you can stop at any time. Where the anchor does some of its deepest work is not in that opening survey that I just described, but midstream. Often you circle something, you might catch yourself almost immediately even doing something else entirely. Or maybe just midstream you were doing something, then somewhere you drifted off. Maybe you circled, for example, write the report, and later on you found yourself researching better writing apps instead of actually doing the writing. Just an example. The reflex is to scold yourself. Focus. The anchor is a gentler, kinder approach. If you do catch yourself wandering off, it doesn't always happen, return to that pad and write down where you wandered. And it's now an option. You can research writing apps, play a game, whatever it is, wherever you went off to. Then you can choose. Yes, I'm choosing this, or I'm going to leave it for now and come back to the work. Either way, you've moved the impulse from the unconscious to the conscious. You've strengthened your ability to decide and engage non-reactively, your agency. This matters most for the muse, that bright rabbit trail that might be genuinely creative. If you wind up suppressing it, you can lose something that might have been real. But you chase it, and you can lose the entire afternoon. So anchoring creates this additional path. You write it as an option, and then you decide. Running off can be, as I said, a real force of creativity. The anchor only asks that we run off on purpose. When you're done with the option, cross it out. And fourth, we settle the anchor. When the moment is done, there are several things we can do on the page, 4 in fact. First, we can reuse it for the next session, updating it as we want. Second, we can process the items that we're keeping, moving that forward. Third, we can archive it for reference. Or fourth, we can just toss it. The anchor pad is temporary by design, and when the moment is done, so is the pad. Some people hear all this and they think, well, isn't this just using a scratch pad? Oh, yes, but only in the same way that meditation is just paying attention to an object. The pad is simple. What we're practicing is not. It is underneath a practice of mindfulness, of pausing and noticing what's there, and then choosing where our attention goes from that. The practice itself is small, but the effects can be a lot larger than the practice looks. The first thing most people notice is relief. A storm can be set aside. Working memory gets some air. It's a bit like stepping outside the magnifying lens for a moment of that now. Setting a few things down where they can't blur or slip. Decisions that felt impossibly heavy a moment ago become, on paper, choices, among other choices. The second effect is more structural. That anchor pad, while in use, creates this thin layer between the now and the not now. It holds the next, things that aren't now, but might become next. We finish one option, come back to the pad, and the next isn't pressing. It's just there, waiting for us. The third effect is a practice of agency itself. Each anchor is a small rehearsal of deciding and engaging. And returning when we find ourselves wandering, we acknowledge our wanderings as part of ourselves, but we also get to choose to continue or not. I want to make a special word about the word anchor. When people often first hear it, they sometimes picture being tied to something, bound. Anchor is a pause. It's not a tether. We are not anchoring to some work that we choose. We're anchoring in that moment of reflection. It's that breather between the waves. Once we've circled something, we've raised anchor and we're sailing. So when do we do this? The anchor isn't something we need to do every moment. That would be its own kind of force. It's useful when we are feeling scattered, exhausted, when we've lost the ground at times. It's also worth practicing in calmer moments too, so it's familiar and ready. It can also be quite powerful when we feel steady and we want to explore this way and choose, oh, maybe those other ways could be useful too, kind of giving us a trailblazing approach. We can always practice it and then, let yourself decide when a given moment calls for it. As an aside, if this is helpful, subscribing makes it easier for you to find the next one. There's also a printable companion at the link below. It includes an anchor pad template, and it's free. So give it a shot now if you'd like. Reach for whatever pen and paper you have nearby. Back of an envelope works, scrap of a receipt works. Pause, take a deep breath, 2, 3. Write a few options for the next few minutes. Just continue watching this video is one option. So is put it down. So is whatever else is on your mind. The email, the dishes, the notification, the rest, whatever. Rest your mind on that list as long as it captures the now. Then circle one. Be with that thing for as long as makes sense to you, and when you're done, come back, cross it out. There's certainly more to this practice, but that's it at its core. So that's A in waves, the anchor. Momentary practice for stabilizing the now, pen and paper. Options, not tasks. Wind as the mnemonic for what to write if it helps you think through where your mind is in the moment. Of course, deciding what to engage with is one move. Actually being with it, without the demand to finish it, for example, is another move entirely. That's the V in waves, the visit. In the next video, we'll walk through how a visit works. It's the practice that by itself can change the texture of much of your work. I hope to see you in that next video.